considerations. And the large piece here is that in many situations, this determination is clear, but there are lots of times where it's very gray, and we need to use our judgment to make the appropriate determination. So there are a few things that come up as we work through this, and things to think about or things to consider as you approach this determination. The faster, the earlier in the process we can make the correct determination, the better off we are for the entire life of the project. So let's talk about why. So there are budget impacts to that. If the award is on a modified total direct cost, indirect cost basis, then the application of indirect costs differs between a subaward and a vendor contract. So under the subaward, only the first $25,000 of the subaward would be subject to the indirect cost or F&A. However, under a vendor arrangement, the entire award or the entire contract is subject to the indirect costs or F&A. And so there's a distinct difference there. Also, there may be a difference in the way that collaborating entity approaches the budget. So if they're operating under a vendor agreement, then they might have a schedule of costs, they might have a catalog of services that they can pull those costs from and quote it out that way. But they may be in a situation, should they be a subrecipient, that they'd have to build a cost reimbursable budget that would look much different than that if the sponsor required it. And so there may be differences in the total cost in that scenario, and it may have an impact on how that project moves forward. Okay, the next bullet we have here is sponsor approval. So most often with federal awards, a subaward requires prior approval. So whether we do that through the pre-award proposal process, where we've included that entity as a subrecipient in the proposal and we receive our prior approval through the award document, or we can have a prior approval request during the post-award phase if the collaborator is added during the life of the award. There may also be a rebudgeting consideration or prior approval to consider depending upon the sponsor and the award and the amount of funds that are moving back and forth between the different categories. The procurement process is a completely different beast, if you will. And so we want to know right away if we determine that our collaborator is going to be a vendor, because the competitive bid process may apply. We may have to work through sole source justifications with our procurement office. So it's important to know the relationship early on so that the proper procedures are followed as we approach that. And the last bullet here, when an entity is determined to be a recipient, it's important that they understand all of the requirements, both for monitoring and the award terms and conditions and regulations that are applicable, that they will be needing to comply with. Sometimes this is difficult for small entities or international collaborators, and so we want to make sure that we have this conversation and we are open about what will be required so that we can make the best foot forward. So keep in mind that this relationship requires judgment, compassion, and if I'm involved, likely some chocolate, to navigate the sense and sensibility of this determination. Okay, now I'm ready.